your priorities get different when you realize that there's other things around that can help bring you to another level. And I think that's one of the things that people have caught on to in the valley is we didn't need to have a lot of downtown revitalization going on because everybody was taking the 4-lane out of here, because you have to understand that we couldn't get anywhere. When I was a little girl, it was like all day long going to Bristol. So when infrastructure came to the mountains and gave us a way out, we took it.
Right.
And so some took it and didn't look back. You know, the girl at Hardee's or the guy at Hardee's who's trying to make a living on a low income, no income, could care less if there's tires floating or a wash machine sitting in the middle of the clinch, because they have other priorities to feed and clothe and sustain themselves. They cannot think about that. But when we all rise up together, then you can embrace, and they can enjoy it just the same as anyone else, and bring themselves to a new level.
The river starts in Virginia and goes into Tennessee, and as Braven said, some of the healthiest mussel sites are on the Tennessee side. A lot of what goes on in Virginia affects what's going on there. And so there has been some interesting and sometimes pretty tense dialogue between the two states. About a decade ago, Tennessee was actually threatening to sue Virginia. And they were saying, yeah, Virginia, you're not doing a good enough job protecting water quality. You need to do more on coal mining, more on agriculture, more on stormwater. Because our mussels in Tennessee are threatened by that, and it was pretty tense. And one of the things TNC was able to do, and we're still playing this role, is we stepped in as a facilitator basically, and set up an organized dialogue between Virginia and Tennessee about the river. And the two states signed a memorandum of understanding to focus on jointly working together to do a better job implementing the Clean Water Act and doing a better job focusing on mussel augmentation. And the Nature Conservancy has played the role of basically leading and facilitating that two-state process. Cleveland is very important to us for a couple reasons. All the hillside up here, it's about 1,000 acres I think now, is part of the state Cleveland Barrens natural area. So there are a number of unique rare plant species on these mountaintop barrens, and it forms a really nice border and buffer to the river that ties into our ownership. So you have a really nice intact river corridor that's all protected. Cleveland has been a site where we've been putting a lot of mussels back into the river to learn about how we can most effectively augment mussel populations. So we are also using this site to monitor water quality conditions using mussels.
You know, river conservation is all about partnerships, because we're at River Mile 271. The river goes on up to 370 something up in Tazewell County. Well, whatever happens in that 100 miles upstream has a direct bearing on what's going on here. And so we can't just focus on the protection of a place like this. We have to focus on the partnerships it takes to really look after our watershed. In the Clinch, we've got the two best pockets we got are this area we're in right now, and then if we go all the way down the river to the Tennessee state line, basically starts a little bit above the state line in Virginia, but close to that, on down through the Tennessee side of the river. Those are the two strongholds, and both of those support, you know, healthy, vibrant, you know, mussel populations. We would like to see this one up a little bit more. So to put that in comparison, we got 4 mussels per square meter here. We're looking at somewhere in the ballpark of 15 to 40 mussels per square meter. The other thing that's really pretty cool about this is Cleveland kind of has a knack of many different species co-occur here. So we've got 27 species we know live here from some of the survey work we've done. Of those, at least 7 are federally endangered. So there's a real concentration of imperiled mussels here. For endangered species here, we've got oyster mussel, we've got Cumberland comb shell in here, we've got shiny pigtoes, fine-rayed pigtoes, purple bean, fluted kidney shells,
Rough rabbit's foot,
Appalachian monkey face, rough rabbit's foot. 5 to 10 healthy shoals basically would filter the entire capacity of the river at base flow as it flows over those shoals. There's silt, bacteria, algae, dissolved plant material, leaf litter, whatever, floating down in the river water well, it's just going to float on down to Norris Lake if nothing else grabs it, right? And so most of the animals that live in the river don't have the ability to capture that stuff. But mussels can. And so mussels can siphon that stuff in, process it, and then what they don't eat, they eject in a little mucal stream that settles on the bottom. So then that's available for aquatic insects, for crayfish, for all kinds of other fauna that live on the river bottom, on which the rest of the fish community feeds. So it's part of that basis for the overall food system of the river. The second thing they do that's becoming more and more apparent is they do help provide better habitat for fish and aquatic insects in the river. And they do this by, one, just whenever they die, the shell material that they leave out is great, hidey holes and homes for things like that. But secondly, the mere presence of mussels at a high density helps to stabilize and anchor the stream bed so that during flood events, the stream bed material doesn't move around as much. The assessment, biological inventories that say a EPA or DEQ would using aquatic insects, you may say the river's all healthy and doing well, but the mussels are not. So clearly there's something in that whole system that's disconnected, that's not working like it should. And so it's kind of an early warning system to say, okay, at the very least we need to watch this one a little more carefully and see if anything changes or things start to go downhill.